Ocarina of Time, one of the most beloved video games of all time, a game considered to be a masterpiece by many, having at one point been the highest rated review score on Metacritic, having some of the most devoted fans, the craziest speedruns, and making the control stick sensitivity become too sensitive on emulators. Yeah, about that. Even though Ocarina of Time is my favorite game of all time, I never played it on the console it was made on. I played it on the Wii Virtual Console, which is the best emulated version of the original game. It's just I hated those goddamn slingshot and arrow minigames. However, what if I told you that Nintendo made a worse emulated version of Ocarina of Time that made the control stick sensitivity even worse, combined with 7 frames of input delay, no remapping of buttons, desaturation of color, and worst of all, the fog. The fog that made Ocarina of Time what it was. Okay, we already know from the countless articles and videos going on last week about how the Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack doesn't seem like a great offer. Mostly because of the ridiculous cost, but because of how they butchered some of their games on their N64 Online library, more specifically Ocarina of Time. I played the game first when I bought the overpriced piece of junk, just to relive my fondest memories of playing my favorite game again. And based on my activity on Twitter, you can tell I was having a lot of fun. Though I noticed its glaring issues on the input lag and control stick sensitivity, especially on this damn horseback archery minigame. But what soured my experience later is of course the fog, which has become a big staple of N64 games. The reason why this cloudy mist was there was quite simply of hardware limitations. More specifically, to keep the draw distance at a steady pace from the character, Nintendo used fog to actually heighten the atmosphere of locations, such as the Sacred Forest Meadow with the green fog separating the woods from the outside world, or Lake Hylia, which shows the evaporation of water coming from the lake. But since N64 Online isn't running on less powerful hardware or emulators, Nintendo thought it wouldn't see fit to have the fog in the game anymore, thinking that it would increase the performance of the game. However, since we know this is Nintendo, this is obviously not true. For one, the game maintains the resolution at 720p for both docked and handheld mode. Community-based emulators for years have emulated Ocarina at higher resolutions, and they have kept the fog. Another reason is that decreasing the N64 fog doesn't even impact the performance in the first place. We are all used to modern games now that fog really pushes the hardware by making it appear more realistic. However, the fog was built into the N64 and was made in mind to keep performance steady in many areas. Yes, games from over 20 years ago have fog, and they played very well with them. But let's talk about my experience with the loss of fog, and oh boy, it's going to be quite a downer. I think everyone noticed this right away, but it's very clear that you can't see the Deku Tree from Kokiri Forest. When the fog is taken out, you can see the very flat look of the branches which were supposed to be hidden by a green looking fog. In the Sacred Forest Meadow, it's very clear that from outside the Forest Temple, you're supposed to see the club moblin as it's supposed to be shrouded by fog so you don't know where it's attacking unless you get up close to it. Speaking of the Forest Temple, the atmosphere is pretty much null and void in this room because of the loss of fog on the ceiling. The cutscene of Ganondorf going into the Sacred Realm after retrieving the Master Sword for the first time shows the fog removal removes the tenseness of the cutscene and instead shows Ganondorf laughing in a floating white background, or a floating Ganondorf's body. Some other places that stuck out to me because of the removal of the fog is when you are on the boat in the Shadow Temple and seeing what's in front of you instead of being shrouded in fog on both sides. The noticeable clipping when coming into the graveyard from the Shadow Temple, the Haunted Wasteland becoming easier to navigate because you can literally see where the flags to Desert Colossus are, and the Shadow Room in Ganon's Castle where you can literally see the door on the other side. Now let's talk about perhaps one of the worst hit areas, which is the Water Temple. I already mentioned the overall dulled down looking colors, but let's talk about this room. The most iconic room in the Water Temple. This is where you fight Dark Link, and probably one of the best fights in the game. If you look at the water, you won't see anything wrong with it, but compare it with the other versions of the game and whoa! It's reflecting the tree in the middle. Fun fact about this, when I saw this comparison on Twitter for the first time, I kind of dozed off and was like, looks the same. It was until later I noticed the difference and was like, why does this look like this? This should have been done in the first place. And the cool thing about the reflection of this room, as when Link passes over the island in the middle, his reflection disappears, signaling that there's something very strange about this room that isn't supposed to be apparent before. Wouldn't you know it, Dark Link was the cause of the reflection disappearance. It appears right after you walk on the middle island. The N64 Online emulator removes the reflective surface of the water in this room, making it appear very murky and gross looking. And wouldn't you know it, the fog is responsible for the reflective properties of this room. Now, I don't know how this works since I'm not a game developer, but feel free to leave a comment in the description. It's the most talked about thing when hearing about the discrepancies in the game's graphics, and seeing Nintendo just outright ruin this room makes me think that there just wasn't enough care put into the Q&A with benefits of the fog removal. But what I think is very baffling about this room is that when you defeat Dark Link, the room doesn't slowly remove the fog and reveal the illusion of this room. Nope, it just straight up cuts out the illusion like you barely even knew it existed. There are so many places in this game that are much different without the fog. It just baffles me that Nintendo decides it would suit Ocarina of Time better if there was no fog. There are still draw distance issues just like we saw in the graveyard. It would have just been more beneficial if the fog was kept and left the game alone as it looked back in 1998. Even if the resolution has to be compromised, there must be a way to fix it. Obviously, Nintendo needs to fix this issue very soon. The loss of N64 fog ruins the experience rather than helping it. We already know Majora's Mask is coming to the N64 Online, and the fans are going to be very upset if the fog removal is still present in the game, because so much of the game relies on fog to bring out the emotion of the gameplay and its many cutscenes. It's also a relatively easy thing to patch back in as well. It's only a matter of time until they can do it. In the end, Ocarina of Time is still a great game, even playing it on a crappy emulator. There's so much of this game I want to talk about too, but I want to leave that in another video. I just hope Nintendo hears the criticisms made by many expansion pack owners and fixes their faults. Hopefully one day we will have a good version of Ocarina of Time that this generation can learn to appreciate, and not from the true fog. Hey everybody, Luxker here. I'm recording this actually after I finished editing the video because, yeah, I forgot to do my intro and outtakes at the end of the video, but I want to make a few more updates before I end off the video. And by the way, I'm glad that you got to the end of the video as well. If you liked my video and want to see more of this stuff, consider subscribing and liking the video. I would definitely appreciate it, and that's something I would have done more in my previous videos. Is I'm not trying to shill my content here or anything. I just am just being honest with you guys. I really want to do more stuff like this because I really enjoy watching other people and taking their examples and just rolling with it. So I hope you guys enjoyed my content. Just a few more updates. The next video is going to be on my my games that I played in 2021, and that's probably gonna be a really long video. So I'm gonna make my review of each game I played very short, probably like 2 minutes or 2 or 3 minutes for each video or video game, or maybe just not even 2 minutes, probably just less than that. Probably the bigger video games are probably going to get more of my time, but overall, 2021 has been a great time for video games in general, and I really want to talk about the games that I played, even though there's a lot of it on my list. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. But I just wanted to make a quick little video for November and rounding off the fall season, and I hope you guys have a happy holidays and hope you guys stay safe, and yeah, that's all I'm here to say. So Until next time, folks, see you on the other side!